It was a day like any other at Forge Valley School, the kind of day that felt safe, predictable, and full of promise. Students arrived with backpacks slung over their shoulders, teachers prepared their lessons, and the familiar hum of school life filled the air. The sun was out, kids were messing about, the usual school day buzz echoing through the corridors and across the playground. Friends shared jokes, teachers called out greetings, and for a moment, everything seemed perfectly ordinary. Just another chapter in the lives of hundreds of young people. But on March 30th, 2022, that sense of normalcy shattered in an instant. What began as a regular Wednesday morning quickly spiraled into chaos, turning an ordinary day into every parent's worst nightmare. Sirens wailed, emergency vehicles rushed to the scene, and the school grounds were transformed into a place of fear and confusion. 15-year-old Tommy Brown, a lad with a bright smile and even brighter future, became another statistic in a story we hear far too often: teenage knife crime. Tommy was known for his kindness, his quick wit, and his dreams of one day making a difference in the world. He was a son, a friend, a classmate, and now, a heartbreaking loss. Tommy's life was taken away on school grounds in broad daylight, in a place meant to be a sanctuary for learning and growth. The very halls that once echoed with laughter and hope were now filled with shock, grief, and unanswered questions. The news spread through Sheffield like wildfire, leaving a community in shock and disbelief. Parents clutched their children a little tighter, teachers struggled to find words, and students tried to make sense of the unthinkable. Social media lit up with messages of sorrow and confusion as the reality of what had happened began to sink in. How could this happen here? How could this happen to one of our own? The questions were endless, the pain palpable. At vigils and memorials, the community gathered to mourn, to remember Tommy, and to support one another in the face of overwhelming grief. The sense of loss was everywhere, touching every corner of the city, but behind the headlines and the heartbreak, there was a story waiting to be told. A story not just of tragedy, but of the lives forever changed, the warning signs missed, and the urgent questions about how to keep our children safe. A story of simmering tensions, missed opportunities, and a community grappling with the devastating consequences of youth violence. This is that story, a story that demands to be heard so that maybe, just maybe, it won't have to be told again. Forge Valley, like many schools across the country, wasn't immune to the odd scuffle or playground dispute. On the surface, it was a place where students gathered to learn, laugh, and grow, a typical secondary school with its own unique rhythm and energy. But beneath the everyday bustle, there were undercurrents that not everyone noticed, or wanted to notice. In the weeks leading up to Tommy's death, a darkness had crept into the corridors, subtle at first, but growing more pronounced with each passing day. The atmosphere began to shift, and what once felt like harmless teenage drama started to take on a more sinister edge. Whispers of arguments, rumors of bullying, and a sense that something was brewing hung heavy in the air. Students exchanged glances in the hallways, their conversations hushed and urgent, as if they were afraid of being overheard. The tension was almost tangible, a silent warning that not all was well. Some students spoke of fights breaking out, of threats exchanged in corners where teachers rarely ventured. There were stories of heated arguments escalating quickly, of friendships turning sour, and of rivalries that seemed to grow more intense with every passing week. At the center of it all was a group of lads who seemed to thrive on the chaos, their presence impossible to ignore. Others mentioned seeing knives, hearing boasts about who was toughest, and catching glimpses of things that made them uneasy. The graffiti on the walls, the whispered threats, and the bravado all pointed to something darker lurking just beneath the surface. For some students, the sense of unease was overwhelming. They found themselves looking over their shoulders, second-guessing who to trust, and feeling isolated in a place that was supposed to feel safe. Anxiety became a constant companion, and the fear of what might happen next was never far from their minds. Looking back now, it's easy to connect the dots, to see the warning signs that were perhaps missed or dismissed by those who should have been paying closer attention. Teachers and staff may have noticed the occasional argument or the odd bit of graffiti, but the true extent of the problem remained hidden, masked by the everyday noise of school life. At the time, though, it was just a collection of incidents, whispers and rumors, fleeting moments of conflict, lost in the everyday chaos of school life. The warning signs were there, but they were easy to overlook amid the constant movement and chatter of hundreds of teenagers. No one, it seemed, could have predicted the tragedy that was about to unfold. The sense of foreboding that lingered in the air would soon become all too real, leaving a community forever changed by what happened next. It started like any other school day, kids rushing to class, gossiping by the lockers, the usual teenage dramas unfolding. But on that fateful day, the air crackled with a different kind of energy. A confrontation was brewing, a storm about to break. Witnesses later described seeing Tommy with a group of boys, voices raised, body language tense. The situation escalated quickly, spiraling out of control. And then, in a flash, a knife appeared. The details remain hazy, a blur of shock and confusion. But one thing is certain, Tommy was stabbed multiple times in front of horrified classmates. The attackers fled, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable horror. Panic, chaos, screams echoing through the corridors. The school went into immediate lockdown, a chilling announcement over the loudspeaker confirming everyone's worst fears. There had been a stabbing. Teachers struggled to maintain order, to comfort terrified students, while emergency services rushed to the scene. Paramedics battled to save Tommy's life, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital. The news spread like wildfire, parents frantically trying to contact their children, the community united in disbelief and grief. Within hours, police had arrested several teenagers aged 14 to 16, suspects in a senseless act of violence that had robbed a young boy of his future. The days following Tommy's death were, honestly, a blur of grief and disbelief. Sheffield, a city known for its grit and warmth, was united in mourning. Flowers piled up outside the school gates, tributes poured in on social media, and candlelit vigils illuminated the night. Tommy's family, their world just shattered, spoke of a kind, funny boy who loved football and dreamed of being an architect. Friends shared stories of his infectious laugh, his loyalty, and his zest for life. The entire community felt the loss deeply. Teachers, many of whom had seen Tommy grow up within the school walls, were left grappling with guilt and grief. Parents hugged their children a little tighter, the fragility of life brought into sharp focus. As Sheffield mourned, the police launched a full-scale investigation. Who were these teenagers, and what could have driven them to such a horrific act? The suspects, their names withheld due to their ages, were questioned, their lives now forever intertwined with Tommy's tragic fate. The investigation uncovered a complex web of allegations. Bullying, gang rivalries, and personal grudges were all examined. The trial, held under a cloud of grief and anger, was a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of youth violence. Some of the teenagers involved were found guilty of murder and sentenced to lengthy prison terms. Others were convicted of lesser charges, their lives forever marked by the events of that day. Justice, it seemed, had been served, but the scars of Tommy's death ran deep. Tommy's death sent shockwaves far beyond Sheffield. It became a grim reminder of a growing problem. Youth violence, particularly knife crime, was on the rise in the United Kingdom. Statistics painted a bleak picture, with incidents involving knives increasing year on year. The reasons behind this surge in violence are complex and multifaceted. Social media, with its culture of online threats and instant gratification, was often cited as a contributing factor. Others pointed to a lack of opportunities, poverty, and the allure of gangs as root causes. Whatever the reasons, one thing was clear: something needed to change. Tommy's death, while a tragedy, became a catalyst for conversations about school safety, early intervention programs, and the urgent need to address the root causes of youth violence. In the wake of Tommy's death, Sheffield refused to stand idly by. The city, determined to learn from the tragedy, implemented a series of measures aimed at preventing similar incidents from happening again. Police presence in schools increased, with officers conducting regular patrols and engaging with students. Anti-violence programs were rolled out, educating young people about the dangers of carrying knives and providing them with conflict resolution skills. Community initiatives, often led by parents and former gang members, worked to provide at-risk youth with support, mentorship, and a sense of belonging. The fight against youth violence became a community effort, a collective determination to create a safer future for Sheffield's young people. 5 years have passed since Tommy Brown's life was tragically cut short. In that time, the city of Sheffield has changed in ways both visible and invisible. The seasons have come and gone, but the memory of Tommy remains ever present, woven into the fabric of the community. His absence is felt in the quiet moments, in the laughter of friends, and in the hearts of those who loved him. The pain of his loss will never truly fade, but his memory serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of compassion, understanding, and proactive action. Each year, on the anniversary of his passing, people gather to honor his life, sharing stories and lighting candles in his memory. These acts of remembrance are not just about mourning, they are about inspiring change, about ensuring that Tommy's story is never forgotten, and that his legacy continues to shape the future. Tommy's death forced Sheffield to confront uncomfortable truths about youth violence and the challenges faced by young people. It sparked difficult conversations in schools, homes, and city halls, prompting leaders and citizens alike to ask hard questions and seek real solutions. Parents, teachers, and community members began to work together, determined to address the root causes of violence and to support the city's youth in new and meaningful ways. It ignited a spark, a determination to break the cycle of violence and create a city where every child feels safe, valued, and empowered to reach their full potential. New programs were launched, focusing on mentorship, education, and mental health support. Community centers opened their doors wider, offering safe spaces for young people to learn, grow, and connect. The city began to heal, slowly but surely, as hope took root in the hearts of its residents. The fight is far from over, but Sheffield's story serves as a beacon of hope. Every sunrise brings new opportunities to make a difference, to reach out to those in need, and to build a stronger, more compassionate community. The journey is ongoing, and the challenges are real, but the spirit of resilience and unity continues to guide the way forward. By remembering Tommy, by learning from the tragedy, and by working together, we can create a future where no other family has to endure the unimaginable pain of losing a child to senseless violence. It is through unity, empathy, and unwavering commitment that Sheffield continues to move forward, honoring the past, embracing the present, and building a safer tomorrow for all its children.